Welcome to Front Office Pros. It's hard to believe, Joe. We're already at week 8. We're going to be going through our starts and sits. We're going to be going through all the positions. So starting off, Joe, let's go with the quarterbacks. I'm starting us off with the smash play of the week. Look, my smash play is going to be quarterback Justin Herbert. He's been a disappointment so far this season. He currently sits as the QB8 for the season. This week he faces the Chicago Bears on Sunday night, and I believe he will absolutely smash. Chicago is ranked 27th against quarterbacks this season, and on average allow opposing quarterbacks to score over 20-plus fantasy points. I think Herbert has the potential to be a game changer this week, and I believe at the end of the day, he may be ranked number 1 for the QB for this week. That's how I have him. So that means, in my view, I'm starting him over Mahomes at Denver, Hurts at Washington, and Lamar at Arizona. I think Herbert's going to be the number 1 guy this week.
That's a pretty bold take by you, Steve. I know you had a lot of high hopes for this guy at the start of the year. You really liked him with the new coordinator, and it just, as you said, Herbert's been a disappointment thus far, and the injury to Mike Williams, but we all kind of expected that. Josh Palmer's filled in well, but we'll see how things progress there. He was on the injury report this week, so that could hinder things if Palmer's not a go. But as far as I like to call out, it's pretty bold, though. I mean, Lamar's got a pretty good matchup in Arizona, and some of those guys that you're starting them over do as well.
Yeah, I mean, all 3 games are away for those guys. You go on East Coast to West Coast for Lamar. Hurts the divisional opponent. You never know the divisional opponent. And same with Mahomes. I mean, that game that the Broncos just had against him recently, they did a pretty good job at defending him. So I think people are looking at, it's Denver. And it's like, well, that defense has done okay over these past few weeks. So that's why I like Herbert.
Yeah. The Broncos defense definitely has done better, and Mahomes one I didn't mind, but I think Hurts and Lamar had definitely a potential to battle Herbert for that number 1 spot.
All right, so who is your sleeper for the week, Joe?
Yeah, my sleeper quarterback for the week, I'm going to go with Desmond Ridder. He's a guy they've seemed to figure something out with him since week 5, from weeks 5 to 7. They kind of unlocked the scrambling ability that he has, and it's kind of sneaky because we don't think about this guy being that athletic, but he's been scrambling for 9.4 yards per attempt, which has been giving you a nice rushing floor to rely on these last few weeks. And then, we saw Chris get traded. He's got a nice matchup against the Tennessee Titans, and a couple other DBs are battling injuries as well, so they might be down some guys along the depth chart in the safety position. And that's also going to unlock Ritter's ability for the deep balls down the field, which he's been throwing the ball down the field 15 yards per attempt from that same span of weeks 5 to 7 as well. And I'd be willing to start, Desmond Ridder over, Matt Stafford at Dallas. Russell Wilson's, got a tough matchup this week at Kansas City. But Kirk Cousins is kind of where I draw the line. I wouldn't start him over Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I've never been a Ridder fan. You know that. But Tennessee Titans defense is a good matchup. We know their secondary is one of the worst. So I see where you're coming from with that, and did not know about his rushing upside. So I think it makes sense. I think he's a sneaky sleeper play. I like it, Joe. So going over to my stinker of the week, it's quarterback Trevor Lawrence. He's going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. And since getting trounced by the Texans, the Steelers have done a pretty good job, in my opinion, against 2 solid quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson and Matthew Stafford. Trevor Lawrence has only had 1 game this season with multiple touchdowns and has only had 1 game with over 300 yards. The Steelers' pass rush is relentless. I do not like the matchup for him. I do not think he ends up getting another 300 yards or multiple touchdowns in this game. Give me Derek Carr at Indianapolis. I am teetering on going Mac Jones at Miami instead of him, and even possibly Jimmy G at Detroit. I am kind of waffling on those, but I wouldn't blame you for starting over because I think that you're going to get a dud out of Lawrence.
Wow, that's very interesting. Talk about guys who I've been disappointed on. Trevor Lawrence has definitely been that guy, but I don't know. I felt like that wasn't a good matchup for them last week against the Saints defense, and they prevailed. I do think Kirk kind of bailed them out too at the end with that 50-yard touchdown that he had as well. But those big plays are there. Steelers defense doesn't scare me as much as you're saying, but I do see the route for that because I expected Lawrence to take the jump this year and just hasn't happened thus far.
So transitioning over to the running backs, my smash play of the week is running back Jahmyr Gibbs. Look, he finally had the breakout game we were all looking for, albeit in a lot of garbage time since the Lions got absolutely destroyed by the Ravens. Gibbs finished with 11 attempts for 61 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 10 targets, 9 receptions, and 58 receiving yards. David Montgomery appears to be missing the game with that rib injury, and he didn't practice on Thursday, and the Lions have their bye week next week, so I could see them, taking the approach of him resting up after that bye week. Gibbs finished as the RB3 last week, so I look for him to repeat that against the Raiders, who are 25th against the running back this season. This is bold of me to say, but I'm starting him over Isaiah Pacheco at Denver, even though that is a really juicy matchup. I'm starting him over Josh Jacobs at Detroit, and I'm starting him over Saquon Barkley against the New York Jets.
Barkley's a surprise one to me. I'm with you on the other two guys. Pacheco didn't do that great in what we thought was a good matchup last time against the Broncos. Now things could still change, but wasn't great. And Josh Jacobs, I agree with you there. The Detroit Lions, they've been great against the run, and you really got to beat them in the pass. So maybe the Josh Jacobs receiving work is there, but I don't expect them to do much on the ground.
But you feel that Barkley against the Jets is a good option? I mean, the Jets defense is probably the best in the league.
Yeah, not that it's a good option. It's just Barkley's just such the heartbeat of that offense, and everything kind of goes off of him. So I think he could still do well, but I like your call on Gibbs, though. He's got a great matchup against the Raiders, and I do agree with you that the smart thing to do would be hold out Montgomery, until after the bye week. Why play him, especially against the Raiders? They should be able to beat them without him.
I don't know. I disagree, Joe. I think Tyrod Taylor might be the heartbeat of that offense.
They have
Daniel Jones is
a lot better, but yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Tyrod Taylor has been a great thing for this Giants offense. I mean, he's way outplayed Daniel Jones thus far. He just takes what the defense gives you. It doesn't do anything flashy. I feel like he actually just runs the offense the way Dable would plan on it, where the Jones, he's got the rushing ability and the improvs, and I think that's where things get haywire.
So, Joe, who do you have as your sleeper play at running back this week?
Yeah, my sleeper player is a guy I really like, and that's Gus Edwards. We received 14 carries for 64 yards last week against that tough Lions run defense, but obviously those numbers turned out a good game. He also had a 1 reception for 80 yards. Now, I don't expect much out of the passing game out of him, just 1 reception. But what's crazy? He had 1 reception for 80 yards, and it didn't go for a touchdown. It's pretty hard to do that. But the Ravens get to play the Cardinals, and they should be playing with the lead yet again like they did last week against the Lions. And he's got a great matchup against the Cardinals run defense that ranks 30th in the league right now. And I would be willing to play Gus Edwards over Javonte against the Chiefs. Aaron Jones, who seems to still be kind of getting worked in from his injuries. But I draw the line at Derrick Henry. I wouldn't start him over Derrick Henry.
Interesting. I think I like him a little bit less than you do. I just don't know if he's assured that workload. I think those other names might have more appeal to me. I think I'd rather actually play all 3 of them other than Gus, but I don't blame. I mean, it's an interesting play. I could be wrong, but that's kind of where I'm going there.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I do like Javonte, but they just don't stick with him. So that's one worry I have with me as far as he goes. And then Aaron Jones, Minnesota's actually been, I believe, like fifth or sixth defense best against the run as well. So that's what scares me about Aaron Jones. And we've seen a lot of A.J. Dillon there too. So
Absolutely. So my stinker for the running back is running back Bijan Robinson. He probably cost some of you your matchup last week, and I'm here to tell you that it may not be a great idea to play him this week either. Tennessee has only allowed 486 rushing yards this season, and with Arthur Smith wanting to ride the hot hand, as he says, I think Bijan will disappoint once again. The Titans are allowing around 12.7 points allowed for running backs. And if you're talking about that being shared amongst Tyler Algier himself and then maybe Cordell Patterson, I think it could be pretty bleak. Just don't like the matchup. And being that secondary is so susceptible, I could see them electing to even pass a little bit more than they're normally accustomed to doing. So when it comes down to it, this is a little bit bold on my part. I definitely would play Jahmyr Gibbs ahead of him. Brian Robinson against the Eagles. I think I'm going to play him instead of him. And Jeff Wilson against the Patriots. If Mostert is not going to play, which sounds like he did practice on Thursday, so maybe he does play, I'd go Wilson. If it looks like Mostert is going to play, getting closer to Sunday, I'd go with Bijan. But I'm a little nervous about Bijan. I might hold off one other week to put him back in the lineup.
Well, do we know if Bijan has recovered from his sickness from last week? Did he get rid of that? Is he healthy?
I'm not sure. Illness. I think he had the case of Arthur Smith's anobia. I think is what they call it.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the one saving grace for Bijan this week could be his utilization in the passing game. Tennessee is another one of those pass funnel defenses. They're tough to run on, but you can pass on them. Maybe they get the screen game working. I don't know. There's going to be a little extra motivation for Arthur Smith, I think, too, to score some points and kind of try to show off some offense as he makes his return to Tennessee.
It's a good point. It's a revenge game narrative, Joe, and some people don't want to buy into it. But the reason why it's a thing is because there have been players who have performed very well against their former team. So I think it is something to monitor.
But the one downfall to that just could be too, they're possibly facing Will Levis, the rookie, and then also facing could also be who's the other guy there?
Spit it out, Joe.
Malik Willis. Malik Willis is the other guy. Now, there was reports saying that it was going to be Levis, and for what it's worth, Vrabel says that's not the case. So I don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be there.
Oh wow, I didn't hear that.
Oh, yeah, boy, reports were saying yesterday Levis was guy. Vrabel comes out and says, "I never said that," and possibly a mix of the two. So you're good at bet as good as mine is. Who's going to start? I don't know.
What a disaster! So don't start the Titans quarterback. So Joe, what are you doing at wide receiver? Who's your smash play of the week?
Yeah, my smash play at wide receiver is Nico Collins. Texans have the best matchup at the wide receiver position, according to the PFF Strength of Schedule tool. He has the fourth best matchup, according to their wide receiver quarterback matchup chart as well. And Panthers have allowed 7.6 yards per pass attempt, which is sixth worst amongst defenses. And, just couple that with the good matchup that he's got here in the Panthers game and his big playability, I think he's going to be smash on the week here. And, there's some interesting guys to compare him to. You got Devonta Smith, and I think, I do think Smith is going to have a good game, but I think I like Olave's potential to get a touchdown better. So I would be willing to start Collins over Devonta Smith, Olave, but I think I would draw the line as far as Mike Evans tonight against Buffalo, though.
Yeah, when it comes down to it with Nico Collins, I think it's a great matchup. Carolina has definitely been susceptible. I'm going to talk about one of these guys a little bit later, but don't blame me there as far as your choices for Nico Collins. We do have a question from Jason. Jason, welcome. Thanks for coming on the show today. He says, "Good evening, gents. This is a get right game for the Bills. I'm starting Josh Allen regardless. Should I start Gabe Davis tonight? I'm playing Rashee Rice over Ridley in my flex." Thoughts? So there's a lot to unpack there. Jason, I would agree with you. I think you got to play Josh Allen tonight, as you can tell. But I am a Bills fan, so you may want to hear from Joe's standpoint. I might be biased, but my reason being is I think they're going to come out swinging tonight. I think this is going to be a get right game for the Bills. And with Vita Vea not in the lineup, that's a huge deal for that defensive line. That interior pass rush is going to be lacking for the Buccaneers. So I like Josh Allen. As far as Gabe Davis tonight, I'm interested to see what you say, Joe. I'm actually a little bit on the fence myself. I actually have him in your league, and I've been back and forth about whether I should play him myself. So I do not know about that. I have him not starting right now in favor. I'm electing to go with either Miles Sanders or Jeff Wilson in the hopes that Mostert doesn't go. As far as Rashee Rice over Ridley, I think I would agree with you there, but I'll see what you think, Joe.
Yeah, this should be a get-right game for the Bills, but I just don't know. I mean, they seem to be playing down to the level of their opponents. The Bucs still have a decent defense. They've been stingy as far as allowing teams to score points against them. I get you got to start Josh Allen. I think I'd be looking for other options besides Gabe Davis. He just hasn't shown it. The consistency hasn't been there, and we also haven't really seen a lot of the big plays down the field to him for touchdowns. So I just don't think you can rely on him. And I like your Rashee Rice over Ridley in the flex. Ridley, a guy I was really excited about after week 1, but he's been hard to trust. Does have a good matchup, though, against the Steelers. I mean, Rashee Rice should be pretty good against Denver. He was good in the first game as well.
Yeah, I think that let's talk about it a little bit because I feel like I gave a sorry answer there. My thought and why I like Rashee Rice over Ridley is I think that it's even though the Steelers matchup is good on paper, I'm not feeling a lot confident of Trevor Lawrence. So that to me makes me feel I'm a little bit of a lackluster move to go with Ridley. As far as Rashee Rice, Broncos defense, as Jason could attest to, and you, Joe, have been subpar. So I think as a result, I think Rashee Rice, just based on that matchup alone with Mahomes, I like that better. So if I had to pick one or the other, I'm leaning towards Rashee Rice on that. You feel the same way as I do as far as the logic goes?
Yeah, I think logic there is fine. Plus, I mean, Ridley's kind of operating as the number 2. I guess you could say that Rashee Rice is the number 2 to Kelsey, but he's really the wide receiver 1 on that team at least.
He really is. So then we also have a question from Connor. Connor, thanks for joining the show today. Pick one wide receiver, one flex, and one tight end. Laporta, Kincaid, Drake London, Scary Terry, Ridley, Rashee Rice, Josh Downs, Josh Palmer, full PPR. Oof. A lot to unpack here. I will tell you this. I'm definitely starting Kincaid tonight. You do not want to start Kincaid. Dawson Knox is out of the game, as well as Quinton Morris.
Pick one, though.
Oh, yeah. Pick one receiver, one flex, 110. I'm picking Kincaid over Laporta.
That's what that's what I was alluding to.
I'm picking Kincaid over Laporta. I mean, he just had 8 targets and 8 receptions last week. They're starting to get him more involved in the offense. I'm going. Here's the thing: if you want a better floor option, I don't blame you for going with Laporta. But I think Kincaid's got the higher ceiling this week, so that's why I like Kincaid. It looks like you would go Laporta.
Yeah, against the Raiders, absolutely.
Okay, I go Kincaid. You go Laporta. Then receiver next. Wow, I mean, London going against the Titans, that's a good matchup. Terry going up against the Eagles, another good matchup. Don't remember off the top of my head how good he did last time they played. Calvin Ridley, we just talked about. Rice, we talked about. Downs against the Saints. I don't think I love that matchup on that one. And then I love Josh Palmer. If he's healthy, that's the only thing. Is he's like you said, he's kind of questionable right now. If I had to pick 2, I'm in between personally. I'm in between Terry, London, and Palmer. I probably would pick Terry, and Palmer. That'd be my bet. But what do you think?
Yeah, this is interesting. It's pretty tough. I mean, I definitely Josh, like you said, Josh Palmer. I think that's a lock. As far as the flex, that's tough. I mean, obviously, I like Rasheed Rice. Drake London's interesting against the Titans because he's been, as I mentioned, that deep down the field threat for Desmond Ritter. That really has been Drake London. So I think there's
But
a
he's not
potential
consistent,
there.
though. I mean, how
I
can you
know.
consistently rely on anybody on the Falcons? That's my problem. That's why I like everything on paper would scream to you it's a great matchup, but that's my problem. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. I guess I'd probably go Rasheed Rice and Palmer. Personally, those would be my two.
So for the record, I say Kincaid, Terry, and Palmer. Joe says Laporta, Rice, and Palmer. So I can see you've got a tough decision on your hands, Connor. Hopefully we
Yeah,
helped you.
those are a lot of good
more
options.
muddy. Yeah, a lot of options. But I do think, I mean, we don't know the rest of your team, but I think something to keep in mind is based on your matchup and who you're playing, what your record is, how desperate you are for a win. There's going to be a difference between ceiling and floor, right? Terry's been a little bit more reliable, probably than most of these other guys. But ceiling wise, Ridley has a high ceiling. If he's used, London has a high ceiling. Palmer recently right now has a higher floor. I think the Kincaid has a higher ceiling. So it's just something you got to think about as far as your matchup and what you want to do there.
Yeah, I think you definitely need a good mix between floor and ceiling plays too. Like you don't want to go all ceiling because then you just could end up getting burned if all those guys don't hit their ceiling. So definitely need a good mix as far as your lineup goes.
Jason also says as a follow-up, Kirk has definitely been the number one target as well as ETN. I could drop Gabe to bench, place Ramondre Stevenson the flex and start Ridley and Rice, struggling to decide. Ramondre against Miami is actually not a horrible option, but the problem is he's not getting a lot of volume. He's only averaging, I think, in the past 3 games around 10 carries a game. So it's not like, they've been using Ezekiel Elliott quite a bit. That's kind of the concern there.
Not
Maybe you do start
Ramondre.
Oh, you would start Ramondre.
I would do exactly what he said. But bench Gabe Davis, play Stevenson in the flex, and start Ridley and Rice both together. Ramondre has been getting the higher snap percentage. Ezekiel Elliott will probably vulture a touchdown like he did last week, but Stevenson's been on the field. He's getting all the receiving work, and Miami is actually a good matchup for running backs.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I would do the same. I think that's the right approach. Connor also says Bijan, Josh Allen, and CeeDee Lamb are my locks, 12-man team. Yeah, you did well there. Allen has probably, I think even with the ups and downs of that offense, I still think he's number 2 on the season right now. Bijan, I'm worried for you right now a little bit based on the shenanigans of Arthur Smith. And CeeDee Lamb, I was looking, he actually has been very disappointing. That was actually quite a surprise. I don't know what your running back options are, but I may want to consider. I know you say he's a lock. I know that probably means a lock for your team. I don't know if you mean a lock for the week, but I may want to consider an alternative there if I were you.
I don't know. I just feel like Bijan could be one of those guys that just mainstay and kind of have to roll with the punches because he still is that dynamic guy. If they get him some screens or get him some work in the receiving game, his rushing ceiling isn't very high with a good matchup, but maybe they get him involved in the receiving game because he's really the guy as far as receiving backs go.
So my sleeper of the week for wide receiver is Devonta Smith. You're talking about him a little bit, Joe. Divisional matchups always bring an interesting twist to the game, no matter what records are for each team when they're coming into the game. So far, Devonta Smith has been extremely disappointing. Think about it. Last year, he was the wide receiver 9. That's where he finished. He currently sits at wide receiver 30 on the year. But one thing to keep in mind, Devonta Smith has done very well against the Washington Commanders. Over their past 3 matchups, he's averaging 9.6 targets, 7 catches, 95 yards. And if you do the math, he averages to a touchdown a game. So if it's me, I'm starting Devonta Smith instead of DJ Moore against the Chargers. You never know with the rookie Badgett. I don't know how confident I feel about that, even though it's a really good matchup. Brandon Ayuk against Cincinnati. Don't know if Purdy's going to play, if it's going to be Darnold. I like Devonta Smith better. And then I'd rather take Devonta Smith over CeeDee Lamb against the Rams. Rams are a tough matchup. And I actually think you could ideally start them both, but I really like Devonta Smith this week.
Interesting. I think, I don't know. CeeDee Lamb's been pretty frustrating. They're coming off a bye. I think we could see them getting him the targets. And the Rams, we just saw Pickens have a pretty good game against them. Deontay Johnson comes right back and had a pretty good game. So CD could be good. But, yeah, I think, really it'll be a matter of, for me, as far as if you're happy with Devonta or not, as if he's going to get in the end zone against the Commanders or not.
That's fair. Who do you have as your stinker for Week 8, Joe, for the wide receivers?
Yeah, my stinker, I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. Even though the Pats defense, has been down, and, I think people are saying that Tyreek Hill's got a juicy matchup against the 14th best ranked defense against the pass. But Bill Belichick and this defense has still been able to slow down offenses and take away their best option. Back in Week 2, when these teams squared off, Tyreek Hill finished as a wide receiver 2 that week. He had 9 targets, 5 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown. And they also brought back J.C. Jackson, who all of a sudden remembered how to be a lockdown corner since coming back to New England versus whatever happened in Los Angeles, and just couldn't get things going there. So not to say that you got to bench Tyreek Hill. I just, I see Fantasy Pros had him ranked as their number 1 wide receiver this week. I think he could be down a little lower than he typically is. And I'd be willing to start guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown over him against the Raiders. You got Keenan Allen, juicy matchup against Chicago. And, I think where I draw the line as far as who I wouldn't start him over is Brandon Ayuk, just outside like the top 10 area. Because it will be Sam Darnold this week. Purdy's going to be out with a concussion, so can't really trust Ayuk.
Yeah, and I think the likelihood is if a team has Tyreek Hill, I would think they're not going to bench him. I think that's where we talk about the stinker is at the end of the day, we're not necessarily advising you should bench him, but it's just going to be, you should expect that you're going to be disappointed because he's not going to do as well as he normally does. I do think that it's something to monitor, though. He did miss practice a little bit earlier in the week, and there were some kind of interesting comments as it relates to Tua had even said like, well, hopefully we'll get him back down the road. I don't know if it was a cruel joke or whatever, but I don't know. I could see him being on a snap count, depending on how that game goes. So I think that is something to monitor. I would not, depending if you have good options, if it gets closer to game time, I may consider switching him out.
I mean, he was a full participant at practice today, so I'm not really concerned about Tyreek Hill from an injury perspective.
Okay. So, Joe, going over to the tight ends for Week 8, who do you have as your smash play of the week?
Yeah, I'm going to smash Dalton Schultz this week. He had a disappointing start to the year, just kind of feeling out the process with how he's going to fit in with this Texans offense, but Schultz has been heating up the last few weeks. He scored a touchdown in 3 straight games, and I think he keeps it going and finds the end zone again this week as he ranks 4th in red zone targets among tight ends. And he was the number 2 tight end on the week in Week 6 prior to the bye week against tougher matchup than what he's going against this week when he faced the Saints defense. I think he's got potential. I know he doesn't have the best matchup, but I think he can elevate over the expectation there, and I'd be willing to start him over Darren Waller is going against the Jets and George Kittle, but would not be willing to start him over Sam Laporta.
Wow, you must really like Dalton Schultz or something. I'll tell you, I will say this: his usage is getting a heck of a lot better. So I don't disagree with you there. He definitely has improved, and I do like him. I disagree with you as far as who you'd start him over, but I do think that he's a solid play, and I could definitely see him smashing. So I do agree with you there. So we got a comment from Jason. He says, "Okay, Steve, Kincaid is available on waivers. For a sec, I'm like, wow, that's unbelievable. You need to go get him now. I have Logan Thomas and Jake Ferguson. Who would you drop to acquire Kincaid? Will Kincaid continue to be a solid contributor? I think I'd be willing to drop either in a heartbeat for Kincaid. Dawson Knox is went on IR. He's going to be gone for the next 4 weeks. This is going to be his time to steal the show. You started seeing what he was doing in New England. The offense truly needs it. They need somebody like him, to be able to kind of get those first downs, keep the chains moving, create some separation. This is what the Bills brought him in for. I only see him getting – I think this could be his coming out party if last week wasn't. So obviously in your league, people weren't, then maybe thought it was an anomaly. But if it was me, I'd be picking up one of those. I'd be starting them tonight. I would drop one of those, either one. If I had to keep one, what do you think, Joe? They're kind of both kind of iffy. I think I'd maybe lean towards
I would drop Logan Thomas.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I would drop Logan Thomas and start Kincaid.
Because I actually
do you
think
agree, Joe? I'm the
Ferguson,
Bills guy here.
What's that?
Well, I'm a Bills fan here, so I might be biased. So, what do you agree with me on that, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Kincaid's definitely worth taking a shot on. I mean, he's got a higher ceiling without Dawson Knox in this offense than Logan Thomas. Thomas had a couple of good weeks there. He's really slowed down. He's been inconsistent. I'd drop Logan Thomas, pick up Kincaid. I do think Ferguson's somebody to watch. I think he could start heating up as Dallas has some better matchups in the second half of this season. And, we know Dak will target the tight end position, just hasn't been consistent enough there for Ferguson, but I think that could heat up here.
And you're welcome, Jason. Glad to help in any way. Hopefully it works out for you. I feel fairly confident about this. So going over to my sleeper play for week 8 for tight ends, I've got Michael Mayer, another highly touted rookie tight end, who I believe is starting to come on here over the past 2 games. Mayer has averaged 53 snaps a game with a 13.2% target share. Now, that number isn't phenomenal by any means. You're talking about guys, that are the best of the best tight ends getting over 25% target share. But I do think it's a hint that we're on to something here. And he'll be going up against Detroit, which is the 31st ranked team for opposing tight ends. So I think look for Mayer as a possible stream option this week. I would play him over Evan Ingram at Pittsburgh, Kyle Pitts at Tennessee, and David Njoku at Seattle.
Interesting. You're playing him over Evan Ingram, huh?
Oh, yes.
Wow, interesting.
You disagree?
Yeah, I don't. Michael Mayer's tough, man. I liked him. I had high hopes for him. I don't know, to play him over. Even I think there's room for Kyle Pitts to have a good game against that Titans defense as well. So it might be hard to start him over both of those guys. I do see the path. We just haven't quite seen it yet, and I'd almost rather just take a wait and see and kind of just stash Mayer for going forward at this point. But he does have a great matchup this week.
What about the Jonnu Smith revenge game?
Well, Jonnu Smith is going to get his anyways in this offense. We've seen it, but that is something to definitely consider. I just think, down the field targets is where it's at, and that's generally Kyle Pitts' area.
So, Joe, who do you have as your stinker play for tight ends for week 8?
Yeah, my stinker play at tight end, I mentioned him a bit ago here. I'm going to go with Darren Waller. I know he started to come around these last few weeks and been heavily involved, but I don't like this matchup against the tough Jets defense. They're coming off a bye, getting extra time to prepare for him. And I know that statistically the Jets haven't been the best against the tight end position thus far, but Waller is truly the number one option in this offense. They lack a number one receiving option, so I think that they'll scheme a way to eliminate Waller. And this is not a popular opinion. A lot of people are saying Waller's a smash play because of the matchup, but I guess time will tell. But I would be willing to start Evan Ingram. We mentioned Ferguson. I'd start Ferguson, but I would start, Logan Thomas is where I draw the line.
You say that the Jets haven't been good against the tight end. Joe, they rank 32nd against the tight end. This is an absolute monster play for Darren Waller. He's the offense. Tyrod Taylor is going to be the quarterback. I disagree with you entirely on this. I don't know what you're thinking.
But you got the pass rush that the Jets have. I just think that the Giants offense doesn't scare me, and I think that the Jets defense is good enough just to completely shut them down. I mean, we're talking about a Giants offense that scored 14 points against the Commanders last week. We'll see how many points they score against the defense. They might not. I mean, I don't know if Waller doesn't get a touchdown. I think Waller could be in for the type of game that he had against the Bills, which was disappointing. He only had like 5 receptions for 43 yards. I think that could be the type of performance we get this week.
Nah, I disagree with you.
I said it's. I know. I
draw the line with you. I'm super unpopular. You're going against the grain. This is contrarian all the way. No, I think. But they've had this pass rush for 7 weeks, and they've been the 32nd ranked tight end. Is that like all of a sudden?
No, I just think that other teams have had other wide receiver options that are better, and you got a key on, and the Giants just don't have anyone on the wide receiver side of the ball that you really got to be scared of. And I think these linebackers will have they have really good linebackers, and I think they could shut down Waller this week.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Jason says Josh Allen, DJ Moore, Rashid Rice, Alvin Kamara, Tony Pollard, Dalton Kincaid, Ramondre Stevenson, final roster settings. Let's go. Jason, we're rooting for you. I like the looks of this team. He said that I'm going against the grain by sitting Ridley and Davis. You risk it to get the biscuit. I couldn't agree with you more. You got to risk it to get the biscuit. I like your thinking. And I think you got a lot of good matchups. I don't know what the other team is you're playing against, but I think it looks good for you. I think you're in for a win.
Yeah, interesting. You decided to not start Ridley after all. We'll see. It could be.
You liked your Rashid Rice. You liked your Rashid Rice take. So, Joe, who do you have for your stack for Week 8?
Yeah, my stack. If you've been watching here, you're not too surprised. I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins this week. I think these guys are going to smash.
Yeah, Panthers are a decent matchup for them. Could definitely see them, and they're coming off a bye, so they've had some time to be able to prepare for these Panthers. But so
both
the
teams
Panthers
are coming
too.
Off a bye.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I saw Frank Reich. There was something
the
like
rookie quarterbacks.
Well, Frank Reich was like, "We got the guy we wanted," which is interesting because Stroud has looked better so far. So it'll be an interesting game who wins that one. So my stack of the week, I talked about him at the top of the show. Quarterback Justin Herbert and wide receiver Josh Palmer. I just think that Herbert is just going to go bananas against this Chicago Bears defense, And here's the thing too, right? The Chargers defense is like one of the worst in the league. So if the Bears do end up scoring, that means they just keep going on the field, and Herbert gets more opportunities. So I like him, and I really like Josh Palmer. He's consistently been getting around 7-8 targets a game. Look for that to happen again this week. I think he's a solid flex play for you. I see him get in the end zone.
Yeah, I definitely like it.
So that does it for Start Sits for Week 8. If you enjoyed this, make sure to check us out next Thursday. I do a live reaction. If you've got different thoughts or suggestions or questions as far as what you should do, that's what we're here for. So go ahead and put it in there. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, but wait, there's more. We're still going to be talking about the Thursday night game. Yeah, I know you got scared there for a second. We're going to talk about So we're going to be talking about the Bills Buccaneers game happening.
Out.
Yeah, cheers. No, Jason, stay. We're not gone yet. No. So we're going to be talking about Bills and the Buccaneers here. Let's start with the Bills side. You're starting Josh Allen, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you got him, you got to.
And then I agree with you. I think this is a get right game. What about for Baker and the Bucs? I don't think I like this matchup for Baker.
Yeah, I mean, this week, there's no bye weeks. You can find better options, I think, for Baker.
Unless you're in a super flex league, I don't see why you'd be starting him. How about on the running back side? You got James Cook or Latavius Murray for the Bills.
Yeah. I don't think I would roll out Latavius Murray, but I think I'd be willing to. I mean, James Cook, he's looked pretty good. He's getting utilized. It just a matter of is he going to be able to find the end zone or not for a really good week.
Yeah, I'm definitely rolling with James Cook, especially with Vita Vea out. I think that's a good option. And I really like Rachaad White this week, but Bill's defense is not the best against the run. I can attest to that. I think he could have his best game of the year.
Interesting. He's just an extreme volume play. I think you got to play him, but even though the Bills' rushing defense isn't the best, I mean, he's not that great of a running back to me. So, but I do think you still got to roll him out there as possible flex play.
How about on the Bills side on wide receivers? You've got Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. Don't really know if you're going any deeper than that.
I'm not going any deeper than Stephon Diggs.
I'm torn about Gabe Davis, but I definitely am starting Stephon Diggs. How about on the Bucs side? You got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Yeah, I'd probably start both of those guys. I think Bucs are going to have to throw the ball. Mike Evans, he's been solid this year. Godwin, he's been inconsistent, but getting some targets. We'll see. And Bills are rolling out Josh Norman this week. We'll see how that works out for them.
I'm definitely playing Mike Evans. I might elect to sit Godwin. He hasn't been that great. And depending on what options you have on your bench, I think you could have a higher upside. So I think I would bench Godwin, but I would start Evans. And then over at tight end for the Bills.
It's probably fair. I mean,
go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, it's probably fair. I mean, Godwin has been tough. I think you could find a better matchup, but if you don't, I think you could also, roll the dice and he might have a decent game.
And then for the Bills on tight end, I'm definitely starting Kincaid. I think he's going to smash this week. Really like the option for him. And then as far as the Bucs, I'm not starting Kincaid. What about you?
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think there's no reason to take the flyer on K-Dot, and like we keep saying, no bye weeks this week. I think you should have plenty of other options to go better than him. I do think he's an interesting guy to monitor, though. He's been feel like his utilization's picking up a little bit. And I guess, same thing goes, I'm not as high on Kincaid. I haven't been as high on Kincaid as you this whole time. This could be the big breakout game, but I might just, I don't know. I guess if you want to take a flyer and start him, he could have a good game, but I might just take the approach of a wait and see approach. And
what is with you with tight ends? What is with you with tight ends tonight? Did you have like a tight end
it's not with the
bug
tight
or
ends,
something?
No, it's just I just don't know if I can trust like the Bills offense right now. Like I don't know what the heck is going on. And this should be a good right game for the Bills, as you mentioned, but they just been playing to the level of their opponent and playing down to them. I just don't know. And the Bucs defense has been stingy, so I don't know. I think his ceiling is kind of capped in this matchup.
You're advising people to sit Darren Waller and to sit Dalton Kincaid. I don't know. Someone gave you like a tight end bug.
Sit him. Waller is a stinker. I mean, people got him in the top 5. I don't think he finishes at a top 5 tight end this week.
Jason says, I'm still here. I'm killing it in my IDP 12-man league, 6-1. Good work, Jason. The Friends and Family League is where I'm having the issues, but a lot of others have similar records trying to make moves for wins. That's what you got to do. It'll be interesting. Trade deadline is coming up. So, that we could see the trade deadline was really active last year. Will be interesting to see if it will be as active this year. It's hard to know with the NFL because it really hasn't been active over these past few years. But maybe we're seeing a new era, I guess, when it comes to the NFL trade deadline. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I think we are. And also something that's new too for the NFL is people like demanding trades from their teams too, and players having more of a voice and getting moved. Not that there's a lot of this that happened going at the deadline, but the Titans are looking like a team right now. They're they already moved Kevin Byard. That could just be the start. Derrick Henry's rumored to be definitely traded by Tuesday. And then you got the Broncos who could make a couple moves, or maybe they don't make any. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see, Joe. You and I both of our teams could be making moves. But make sure you check us out next week. Jason and others, thank you so much for watching. And until next time.